The Collector's Bargain, from the Beetlejuice Chronicles. There are some deals in life that seem too good to be true, a price too low, a benefit too great. But every bargain has its cost, and sometimes that cost is more than you could ever imagine. Tonight we meet a man named Daniel Gray, about to make a deal that will change his life forever, and not in the way he hopes. Daniel Gray was a man down on his luck. At 45, he had watched his life spiral from one disappointment to another. His job at the factory was a dead end, his bank account barely scraping by, and his once thriving business ideas never seemed to take off. He spent most of his days hunched over a desk, avoiding calls from debt collectors and fantasizing about a way out, a quick fix to solve all of his problems. It was on one such afternoon, while nursing a cheap whiskey, that he found himself staring at an old advertisement tucked in the back of a magazine. It wasn't flashy, just a simple black and white print that read, "Want something? Anything? Call the Collector, deals made daily." The ad was followed by a phone number. There was no address, no details, just those few cryptic words. Daniel chuckled at the absurdity of it. Another scam, he thought. But still, something about the ad gnawed at him. It promised everything he wanted, a quick fix, a solution to his endless problems. He downed the last of his drink and dialed the number. The phone rang only once before a voice answered. It was smooth, deep, and unsettlingly calm. "The Collector," the voice said. "What can I do for you, Mr. Gray?" Daniel blinked in surprise. He hadn't given his name. How do you know who I am?" The voice chuckled softly. "I know everyone who calls me, and I know what you want." Daniel shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "You do?" "Oh, yes," the voice replied. "You want success, money, power. You want everything you've lost and more." Daniel's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't said a word about his struggles, but somehow this stranger knew. "What's the catch?" he asked, trying to sound casual but failing to hide the tension in his voice. "There's always a price," the voice replied, matter-of-factly. "But for now, let's focus on what you want. I'll give you everything you've ever dreamed of. Wealth, status, success in whatever endeavor you choose. In exchange, I ask for one simple thing. Something you won't miss." Daniel frowned. "Like what?" "Oh," the voice said, pausing just long enough to let the suspense build. "A year of your life." Daniel laughed, more out of nerves than humor. "A year? That's it? You can take a year of my life and give me everything I want?" The voice remained calm. "Precisely. 1 year. You won't even notice it's gone." Daniel considered the offer. He was already 45. What was 1 year? He'd still have decades ahead of him, and he could finally live without the constant weight of failure hanging over his head. "How does this work?" Daniel asked. "Simple," the voice replied. "You say yes, and your life changes immediately. Success will find you in ways you can't imagine. You'll have the power, the influence, the wealth you've always desired. In 1 year's time, I will collect my payment." Daniel hesitated. Something about the voice felt too confident, too smooth, but his desperation outweighed his doubt. He wanted out of his life. He wanted more than this. "All right," he said, his voice steadying. "You've got a deal." "Excellent," the voice purred. "Consider it done." The line went dead. The changes began the very next day. Daniel woke to find an email from a business investor he hadn't heard from in years. They wanted to fund a new project he had pitched long ago, a project he had nearly forgotten about. Soon after, the offers poured in. Business deals, partnerships, invitations to exclusive events. Everything Daniel touched seemed to turn to gold. Within months, he had become a success story. His bank account swelled, his name appeared in magazines, and his former friends and colleagues watched in awe as Daniel Gray's fortune skyrocketed. The once broken man was now a mogul, living the life he had always dreamed of. It was almost too easy. Almost. The deal with the collector haunted the back of his mind, but as time went on, he found it easier to push the thought away. A year was a long time, after all, and he had plenty to enjoy in the meantime. But as the months passed, the thought began to creep back. He had agreed to give up a year of his life. What did that mean exactly? Would he lose a year off his lifespan? Would he age faster? Then, one morning, exactly 1 year from the day of the phone call, Daniel woke up feeling different. Groggy, sluggish. His body ached in ways it never had before. He tried to shake it off, telling himself it was stress from all his success. But as he got out of bed and stumbled toward the mirror, his heart stopped. The face staring back at him wasn't his own. Or rather, it was, but older. Much older. His once dark hair had turned completely gray, his skin sagged with wrinkles, and his eyes, once sharp and clear, were dull and tired. He looked like a man 20 years older than he should be. Panic surged through him. He ran to his phone, frantically dialing the number from the advertisement. But there was no answer. He dialed again and again, but the line was dead. What's happening?" Daniel muttered, his hands trembling as he stared at the reflection that no longer seemed like his own. And then the phone rang. Daniel jumped, his heart pounding in his chest. He grabbed the phone, his hands shaking. The same smooth voice echoed through the line. "Mr. Gray," the collector said, his tone as calm as ever. "I trust you've enjoyed your success." "What have you done to me?" Daniel shouted. "I look like I'm 65. The collector's voice remained cold, detached. "I told you I would take 1 year of your life, but you didn't ask how that would happen, did you?" Daniel's mind raced. What do you mean?" "Time is a fickle thing," the collector said. "Some think of it as a steady progression. Others think of it as a resource. I prefer to think of it as negotiable. You see, I didn't just take a year from your life. 1 year for every deal you made, every success you enjoyed. 1 year for each victory, each triumph." Daniel's breath caught in his throat. But that's unfair?" the collector said, his voice laced with amusement. "You didn't ask for the details, Mr. Gray. And now, here we are." "No," Daniel whispered, staring at his reflection in horror. "You can't do this. There has to be a way to reverse it." "Sorry, Mr. Gray," the collector said, his voice turning dark. "A deal is a deal, and I always collect." The line went dead,